Hey everybody, welcome back to Enigma's Nerd Talk, aka ENT, and this is going to be another video of a review that I wrote for my blog a while back that I am transferring into video format for the channel. This is for Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth for the PlayStation Vita. The link to the written review will be in the description box below if you'd like to read it as well. If you were born in the 80s or early 90s, then you probably remember watching the famed Digimon series on television and have fond recollections of it. I know I sure do. Having not played a Digimon game in over a decade, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth was not in my plans to get really, but seeing it on sale, I decided to fall into nostalgia and get it anyway. This is a review for the Vita version, but there are not any content differences between the two, so fret not in that regard. Digimon is a series that's always been compared to Pokemon, and that's pretty fair, especially when you open the main menu Digivice, which is more or less the Pokédex of the game. You can find player information, including where to go on your current case, and a guide that lists all the Digimon that you have discovered and more. Now, this is not a slight against either game, as I have enjoyed both series, but it is more to show how much games tend to borrow concepts from one another and give fans of one series a point of reference for getting into the other. So the game starts off showing you how technology has advanced. A group of people are in a chat room of the virtual world, Eden, and discussing things like hackers and Digimon. Apparently at this point, Digimon are more of a rumor than anything confirmed. A hacker arrives in the chat room and announces that they have a surprise for them and tells them to meet at a specified time. Then fast forward a bit to that time and go through some more dialogue, and you arrive. The characters meet up with the protagonist, which you can choose both the name and gender of, but the default is a male named Takumi, and I just kept that name and gender myself. It is what it is. Shortly afterwards, Takumi meets his friends from the chat room named Arata and Nokia, now in Eden using their avatars. Those are basically virtual figures of their own real-world bodies. The story goes into a frenzy of talk about hacking, Digimon, and the virtual world of Eden, where I just get a bit lost in all of it and find myself longing for a feature to scroll up and reread text or some kind of in-game dictionary that explains the lingo. A mysterious figure named Mr. Nabbit, the one who invited them, hacks them and makes them hackers as well, which apparently in this game makes you a shady person people tend to be afraid of. I guess that shows how far society has come with stereotyping in the digital world. Most importantly though, it also seems to give you the ability to capture Digimon. Afterwards, you meet another hacker and they give you a choice of 3 Digimon to start with, and from there your Digimon adventure truly begins. Once again, getting pretty heavy Pokemon vibes, like I mentioned earlier. Then the main characters go their separate ways and things progress, them still communicating and seeing each other pretty often through the story. The idea of digivolving and de-digivolving your Digimon is all fair and well, but if you take everything on the surface without diving deeper into things, you will most likely find yourself like me, spending hours grinding levels because you found a boss that was too difficult and asking people on forums to explain it to you. The way you capture Digimon is pretty simple. Whenever you find one in your random encounters, you battle them and you scan them. When the scan reaches at least 100%, with a maximum of 200%, you get to convert it at the Digilab and put it in your party or do whatever you see fit with it. The Digilab, ran by Mirei Mikagura, is where you can store some of the Digimon in the Digifarm or the Digibank, digivolve your Digimon, as well as access features such as the online Coliseum where you can battle other players. It's a pretty central place you will be getting very accustomed to as you play. Since you'll be going there pretty often, it's worth mentioning that most dungeons also have a shortcut to get back to the Digilab and also back to the dungeon pretty readily available, so don't worry about having to fight a boss and wanting to change your party beforehand or anything of that nature. The Digifarm and the Digibank are two very important parts of the lab. The Digifarm is an expandable area where you can store your Digimon and they can do one of 3 things. Investigate, which is find new property cases for you, train, which is to level up while you continue to play, and develop, which is to create items. Also, you have the option of feeding them different food items that you can find, which can increase various stats of theirs. It might seem like a lot to take in, but there's even more to it. The last 2 parts of the Digilab, the Mirror Dungeons and the Online Coliseum. In the Mirror Dungeons, you can return to dungeons you have previously explored once you unlock them, and use them to level up your Digimon and or scan Digimon. Accessible directly from the Digilab, this can be quite the useful function for finding the Digimon you're looking for or getting some levels before continuing on in the story. Finally, there's the Online Coliseum, which as you could probably guess requires you to be connected to the internet, and you can battle other players or AI if none are available, in order to increase your ranking. Also, there's a trophy associated with it for those that are interested. As with many video games, especially JRPGs, the combat is an important part of it. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth does not lack in this department. It's a bit more of the typical 3 vs 3 party method with a slight spin on things. True to JRPG fashion, you level up and increase stats as you win random encounters. You fight bosses at the end of dungeons, and you collect items through battles and chests as you advance. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you feel me? The combat itself is a lot less complicated than the actual digivolving and de-digivolving of the Digimon. You have your usual guard, attack, skill, and escape choices, as well as the option to use items. Elemental weaknesses also come into play here, as well as Digimon type. The 3 types for those that are new to the series would be Vaccine, Data, and Virus. They have a rock, paper, scissors type of strength and weakness going on. For example, if a Vaccine Digimon attacks a Data Digimon, it does half damage. However, if it attacks another Vaccine type, it would be normal, and a Virus type, it would be double damage. Now, the elements also work into this. If you attack a Digimon your type is strong against, and your element is also at an advantage, then you do triple damage rather than double. And if only your element is advantageous but your type is disadvantageous, then you do 75% of your normal damage, so on and so forth. It might seem a little complex, but it's something very integral to winning battles, especially those harder boss battles towards the end of the game. Also, there's something called CAM, which is short for camaraderie, which is a necessary part for some Digivolutions. You gain this by having your Digimon in your battle party. Your party total can be 11 Digimon at a time, with 3 of them being the battle party, the ones fighting. You can switch them out at any time, including during battle. Digimon with a higher CAM are also more likely to be able to do combos with their fellow party members, which increases the effectiveness of attacks or skills used. It's seemingly random when your Digimon will have a combo, but there are skills that certain Digimon have that make it more likely. The actual Cyber Sleuth part of the game comes into play from the first chapter. A fateful meeting with Detective Kyoko Kurame really sets things into motion. Shortly after an incident occurs, you become the assistant detective to Kyoko and begin working at the Kurame Detective Agency, where you become known as the Cyber Sleuth and start handling cases given by various characters throughout the game, all the while trying to figure out the mysterious affliction your character is dealing with. The gameplay takes a pretty simple course from here. Go to the board, pick a case. They're color-coded, with red being the story essential ones, and other colors like blue being side story material. Besides the Digilab, the detective agency, which is right next to it, is the other place you'll be spending a bit of your time. Pick a case, solve it, move on to the next one. It all becomes one smooth transaction you'll become quickly accustomed to as you progress. This is one aspect I feel the game has done quite well. Nothing too complex. Before accepting the case, you're shown the items you get and who and where to go to start it. Keeping it simple and sweet, they've done that here. Looking at the whiteboard with the cases and seeing them completed and moving on to the next one gives you a real sense of achievement and completion. Having a case not finished starts to feel like a stain on a perfect track record. The cases themselves mostly revolve around going to the specified NPC and them telling you a short background on what's the problem, then you're going to go into the virtual world at some area and defeat a Digimon, collecting an item for them, or answering some questions based on in-game information. Basically fetch quests and kill quests for those used to RPGs. Once again, pretty simple and efficient. In some cases, they even directly bring you to the NPCs so you don't even have to go look for them. Great. As you advance further through the various chapters, you unlock more areas to explore both in the real world and the digital world. The game culminates in a pretty typical happy ending and seems to be leading towards a sequel of sorts maybe. Some pros that I have about the game: it has an interesting take on the elemental plus the rock, paper, scissors, vaccine, data, virus type of combat system. There's a pretty much ease of access to any previously explored area, no need to spend a lot of time backtracking or anything like that. And it has a wide variety of Digimon and skills to use. A pretty satisfying collection of Digimon, really. Now, some cons. There is no English dub. There are difficulty spikes that can have you stuck in grinding levels for quite a while to compete with the current boss. There's some complexity involving digivolving and maximizing your Digimon's efficiency. And there's no backlog or way to fast forward through conversations, meaning you have to continuously press a button in order to skip dialogue, and if you want to go back to a message you missed or want to reread it, you're pretty much out of luck, unfortunately. Overall, visually the game is nothing to take a second look at, although to be fair, the PlayStation 4 version does look a bit better than the PS Vita, so if you want to maximize graphics and all that, then definitely get the PS4 version. There's not much else different between the two. You can easily spend a lot of time on it, the usual JRPG time sink kind of stuff really, especially if you want to collect all the Digimon and Digimon medals as well as all the trophies. Trophy hunters and completionists will be happy to know that you can very well get the Platinum Trophy in one playthrough if done right. Also, there's New Game Plus where you get to carry over all your Digimon and pretty much everything except key story items and things of that nature. Simply doing the story mode would probably run you about 40 to 50 hours or so. I put in about 100 hours in my run on story mode doing nearly every case available, as well as plenty of hours grinding levels and collecting Digimon and trophies, but not quite 100%. This is a game I would certainly recommend to fans of the Digimon series or JRPGs in general. If you're not sure about it though, like I wasn't, then I recommend getting it on sale or used, since the PS4 version did have a physical release. For non-fans of JRPGs or games of this type, it's nothing amazing enough that's going to change your mind. However, for those on the fence, this could very well spark your interest and keep you entertained for a good amount of time. Have you given the game a spin? If so, what do you think about it? Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below and tell me your thoughts. And of course, as always, remember to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already.